Mr. O'Connor.
What is your real name?
Malcolm X.
Is that your legal name?
As far as I'm concerned, it's my legal name.
Have you been to court to establish that
I
you
don't.
are?
I didn't have to go to court to be called Murphy or Jones or Smith. Excuse me for answering you this way.
That's
If
all
a
right.
Chinese person were to say his name was Patrick Murphy, you would look at him like he's insane because Murphy is an Irish name, a European name, or the name that has a Caucasian or white background. And a yellow person, Chinese is a yellow man, and he has nothing to do or no connection whatsoever with the name Murphy. And if it doesn't look proper for a person who is yellow or Chinese to be walking around named Murphy or Jones or Johnson or Bunch or Powell, I think it would be just as improper for a black person or the so-called Negro in this country, as we're taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to walk around with these names. And therefore, he teaches us that during slavery, the same slave master who owned us put his last name on us to denote that we were his property. So that when you see a Negro today who's named Johnson, if you go back in his history, you'll find that he was once his grandfather or one of his forefathers was owned by a white man who was named Johnson. If his name is Bunch, his grandfather was owned by a
I
white
get
man
the point.
that was named Bunch.
Would you mind telling me what your father's last name was?
My father didn't know his last name. My father got his last name from his grandfather, and his grandfather got it from his grandfather, who got it from the slave master. The real names of our people were destroyed during slavery.
Was there any line, any point in the genealogy of your family when you did have to use the last name? And if so, what was it?
The last name of my forefathers
Yeah.
was taken from them when they were brought to America and made slaves. And then the name of the slave master was given, which we refuse. We reject that name today.
You
and
mean,
refuse
you mean
to...
you won't even tell me what your father's supposed last name was or gifted last name was?
I never acknowledge it whatsoever.
Listen to all this and see some of it, then you would have known just what it was. We lost everything.
Lost everything.
You own the land?
Yeah, we own our land, all of them.
And no one ever paid you any money for this land?
No,
Just lost it.
took it.
What do you say to children today? Children like this boy, like your great-grandson, and people who didn't grow up when you grew up, and people who didn't go through what you went through, people who would say, this couldn't have happened in this country. Come on.
I would tell them like this. I said, don't ever stay in a place that white folks can surround it. Don't never stay in a place that white folks can surround it. Because if anything happens some ways else, they'll run you out from your home, just like they did us.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another live broadcast on the forecast. Now, what's going on, Cassidra? How you doing today?
I am good. A little stuffy, but I'm good.
You good?
A little
It must have
stuffy,
moved
but I'm
on. It must have moved on to you. I was stuffy last week.
yeah,
I was
I know. My husband was like, "Oh Lord,"
good.
he came in sick. I was like, "Oh Lord, here we go." But it's all good though.
Yeah,
All good.
facts. Well, yeah, like you said, every day above ground
Yeah,
is a good day.
every day. I swear, every day above ground now is a great day because you never know with all this stuff
Mhm.
going on forecast. I swear, I ain't never seen nothing like this before. I don't
Yeah,
know what in the world. And I think what we're doing tonight is good because I think we have forgotten. You know what I'm saying? I think we have
mhm,
forgotten. And I think people need to be reminded of the past and how we handled things back in the past.
yeah. And consider just so they don't think we tripped before we even say anything. I just played it, but I'm gonna play it one more time because she she's trying to get it together.
Well,
Well,
you
you like this. I said, don't ever stay in a place that white folks can surround it. Don't never stay in a place that white folks can surround it. Because if anything happens some ways else, they'll run you out from your home, just like they did us.
You
You
heard
heard
that,
that?
consider?
wow, that is amazing. I hear
I
an
hear
echo
echo
though.
though.
That is amazing. She said, "Don't ever stay in a place where what?
Where white folk can surround you.
Hey." And I think that's what we did. We messed up. Back in the day, we could protect each other, and they stopped it and spread us out. So now it's hard to protect each other now because you could be anywhere. But that's why these groups should come up across the across America. You know what I'm saying? Citywide.
Yeah.
If they did it then, they can do it again. But we have to do something because right now I'm seeing a whole lot of black folk on trees. And I know we don't grow on trees. I'm just saying. I'm seeing a whole lot of black fruit on trees. And when I last checked, we weren't birthed on trees. So how we getting up there? Something
Man.
not right. Something wrong with this picture. And
Hold
everybody committing suicide? No, they're on code. Them crackers on code.
hold on. Consider something's
Something's
going
going
on.
on.
Hold on.
Yeah, I hear echo.
All right, let me go out. But you can
When you
talk
do
while.
that, you don't have an echo. But when you show the background, if
Yeah.
you don't talk, then I don't hear echo.
I know it shouldn't be doing that though. I don't know why it's giving the echo because I'm using two different things. So it shouldn't even have an echo at all. But I'm gonna go out and come back out and come back in.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. How's everybody? I hope everybody is having an amazing week. I'm very stuffy, but it's okay because I'm getting ready for my big move. Um, and we're gonna do a little journal, and we'll let you guys know, when it's time, what we doing, and how we doing it, and how we set things up, and because anybody can do what I'm doing. Just like that woman say, I wouldn't dare stay around somebody that I got to look around and see if I'm gonna be caught up on a tree, you know. And we know doggone well that those crackers on code and they're saying that those people are committing suicide, and we know black folk don't know how to tie no noose. That's the word. That's the last way a black person wants to die. But everybody's on code, and they've not said it's a hate crime. They've not even said it's committed by somebody. They just said it's suicide. So they're not even investigating. So that means they know who it is, and they just not gonna put attention on themselves. Because why would I put attention on myself? Then the FBI come in, then you know what I'm saying. So we know that they know. Yep, I heard another echo. You're good now.
Um, Maybe it's playing in two different things.
Yeah, I
You
think
think you
maybe mute the other one, maybe because I
it's
don't have
muted
anything else
almost.
open. Just mute the
Yeah.
other one, maybe,
Um.
and
Oh
try it
yeah.
again.
Everything muted.
Everything is muted. That's weird for it to be. Oh,
I
huh.
think if I mute my mic, for some reason it's picking up on my mic double for some reason. I don't
Really?
know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's All right, hold on. I think I can fix it though. Let's hope.
Yeah, but I just want us to be careful out here. I want us to, if you can travel in a group, travel in a group. Make sure you got your leaf blowers and your, candy bars and your peanuts, and have them in one place and not candy bar over here, your peanuts over here. Make sure you have it all in one spot. Keep your head on the swivel. If you feel anything, when you get, ladies, when you come out early in the morning, going to the gym or whatever, make sure when you unlock your car door that you lock when you open that door, lock it immediately so that nobody can get in on the back doors. I've seen that video too where two guys got in the back way. The girl was putting in groceries in her car, and the guys, she left the doors unlocked. So of course they had several entrance, back doors. So y'all just be careful out here. That's all. I'll rest with
Um,
that. Oh, you sound good now. Go ahead. Let me see.
but every time I share the screen, like when I try to do the video, we getting that echo. Go put yours on mute real quick.
Okay.
Let me see. All right. No, yeah, it's still an echo. I'm not sure why I got an echo when I do that. Say
Say
something,
something,
Caesar.
Caesar.
Oh,
Oh,
Yo, you there, Cassidra? Um, what's going on, guy? You can hear me, guy? I don't know. I'm having technical difficulties.
If you talking, I don't hear anything. Forecast. If you
You
talking,
can't hear me?
if you okay, now I can hear you. I'm like I wasn't hearing anything. I had me on mute. Sorry, I had
Yeah,
muted my.
probably. You can hear me. Am I clear? Am
I,
I echoing?
yeah, you good now. Yeah.
I'm gonna try to share the screen and see if I'm echoing now.
Okay.
All right, am I echoing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see how because I mean,
Try to share it and see what happens, and if they talking. I think if you talking, it's echoes. But if you using the screen, you open up the screen, just don't say anything, and it won't echo. Oh, guy said he can hear you. Is he echoing, guy? Is he echoing? Just try to share your screen and just don't say anything. Just share something. He said mute my mic.
all right, but even when you mute, I am echoing still. I think.
Yeah. Well, can you share something that won't echo? That you know, you've been sharing something. Maybe you won't get an echo.
All right, I'm gonna play some and see what happened. But I'm gonna be on mute.
Okay.
Not many white.
That's everything.
You own the land.
Yeah, we own our land, all of them.
And no one ever paid you any money for this land.
No,
Just lost it.
took it.
What do you say to children today?
All right, so do that video echo
It
too?
sounded good until you start talking. I mean, we didn't
All
hear
right.
it.
So I guess I'm gonna just have to play it,
Yeah,
and then if we
playing and not talking till you know.
yeah, then we'll pause it, I guess. But that's gonna kind of mess everything up. I don't know what's going on. Why I got this echo going on?
Well, the video.
You hit your mute button.
Oh, guy said it didn't echo at all. He said the video didn't. So just show the video, and you know, it's not echoing then. Hey, Raw.
All right, so that's just how we're gonna do it today. I don't know why there's always some crazy stuff going on. What's going on, Ron?
Okay.
It's annoying.
He said just show the video. Yeah, and no talking.
All right, so we're just gonna go straight to the main point. There you go.
Klansmen for Mississippi! Mississippi! Klansmen for America! For America!
For generations, the Ku Klux Klan cast a shadow of terror across America. Hooded figures gathered in the dead of night to burn crosses and ride under the cover of darkness, menacing black communities with violence and intimidation. The Klan wanted black Americans to live in fear, but throughout history, there have been those who refused to bow. Brave black men stood up, armed themselves with courage and conviction, and faced the Klan head-on. In doing so, they turned the tables and made the white-robed terrorists feel fear for a change. This is the story of the black men who terrified the Klan. From the Reconstruction era through the Civil Rights Movement, we will explore 5 extraordinary stories of resistance. These are tales of men who wouldn't be intimidated, men who protected their families and communities when law and justice would.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a
Hey, Cassidra, when you speak, I'll stop sharing the screen whenever we need to talk. So.
Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the stories they don't want us to remember. Our first story takes us to the small coastal town of Darien, Georgia, at the close of the 19th century. This was deep Jim Crow country, where a rumor against a black man could set deadly events in motion. In the summer of 1899, a black landowner named Henry Delegal was accused of raping a white woman. He was known among black residents as a steady family man. In that era, an accusation like this often ended at a tree or a courthouse yard without a trial. Lynch mobs formed quickly. Local officials often looked away. The Ku Klux Klan and allied groups used accusations to enforce a racial order that kept black people afraid and silent. Darien was not willing to follow the script. The black community had watched wave after wave of violence across Georgia and the South. Newspapers recorded the deaths with cold regularity. Churches mourned. Families buried sons and brothers. In Darien, anger hardened into resolve. The law did not protect black life with any consistency. The men of the town decided they would. Word spread that a white crowd planned to seize Delegal from the jail and hang him before dawn. Black men gathered at the jail in numbers. Many had learned to shoot as boys. Some had served in local militias that existed before the new regime crushed them. They took up positions inside and outside the building. They kept rifles and shotguns within reach. They spoke in low voices and checked the corners and windows. They killed the nearby lamps with well-placed shots, leaving the jail in darkness and the street exposed to the moon and to any torch a man chose to carry. It was a simple, tactical choice that gave them a small edge. They understood what was coming. Night settled on the river town. A white crowd approached in the heat, loud and restless. The sound carried down the street. The mob wanted a quick punishment that skipped a judge and a jury. As the men came close, they saw black defenders on the steps and along the walls. Gunmetal showed where the light caught it. A shot cracked the air as a warning. The crowd halted. A few tried to press forward anyway, but others pulled them back. The people advancing on the jail had counted on fear to clear their path. The sight of armed black men holding ground forced them to think about a cost they had not planned to pay. The standoff stretched. There were shouts and threats from the edge of the light. Inside the jail and along its exterior, the men from Darien waited and watched. They were not playing at war. Each man knew what would happen if the crowd broke through. They also knew what it would mean if they held the line. The mood shifted in the street. The mob had to decide whether to risk a gunfight in the dark against men who knew the doorways and alleys. Officials realized the situation could spiral. Appeals went up the chain to the governor. State troops arrived within days. The militia moved to Project Control. Their focus fell on the black community that had organized the defense. The point, from the state's view, was to restore quiet and to show that armed black resistance would not be tolerated. Arrests followed. Houses were searched. In the chaos of that week, a deputy sheriff entered the Delegal home. A struggle broke out. A shot was fired. The deputy died. One of Henry's sons was accused of firing the fatal shot. That set a new series of charges in motion. Even with troops in the streets and fear running through homes, the community's decision to defend Henry changed the path of the case. He did not end up on a rope. He lived to face a jury. That fact was rare for a black man in Georgia accused of a crime against a white woman. Lawyers petitioned to move the trial out of the immediate county. They sought a place where the jury pool might listen to evidence rather than follow the rage of the moment. The sentence was prison, not a killing in the street or a hangman's knot behind a courthouse. That outcome carried its own bitter truth. A white jury would not clear the entire Delegal family after a week that included an armed stand at a jail and the death of an officer. Yet the difference between a cell and a tree mattered. Their terror would be met with equal resolve. Their defiance in 1899 lit a spark, a warning that would echo in history and inspire future generations of black Americans to stand up against the Klan's tyranny. Darien
I'm
Now
gonna
that's the
stop.
part. That's the part we need to hear. That part. I think we've forgotten how we're supposed to act when they come for us.
Mhm.
But go ahead.
No, no, I stopped it for a minute so we could talk. It's whack that is messing up, so because I would be able to talk but I guess it's meant to be this way, so we just gonna roll with it. And because considering I was telling you, I went up to the DC or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and I went to talk to I went to that museum. But do you think they show any of this kind of stuff in the museum?
Oh no, absolutely not. Why? Why would they? No.
No.
No. Unfortunately, I think the one down here, the Woolworth, shows a little bit more than the one up there. The one up there is uh what do you call it? Being a little, uh timid, you know what I'm saying?
Very
Of white
timid.
feelings, but it's not about their
Yes.
feelings. They don't hide when they come to the Holocaust. They want to show air. They want to lie and say 6 million. Wasn't even no 6 million nothing back in them days. You know what I'm saying? So they lying. I was trying to outdo us, but ours is real, you know. But I want us to remember we're doing this for a reason because right now we have men or black folk that's being uh birth on trees. I don't know what else to call it because it's almost like that's where we're being born now. We're being birthed on trees, okay? And we're just as quiet. Nobody saying anything. Why? Because it's not you yet. It's not your child yet. It's not. Why? Why are we so quiet? We forgot how they act. I need you guys to remember. Let's watch this movie so we can remember, so that we can maybe stir a fire up on us to care. Because if the police did it back then, you think they're not doing it now? What changed?
Mhm.
Nothing changed.
And
But I'm gonna rest with that one.
no, and I'm glad that because I used to say it all the time. Like when they would shoot out, they would be on the rooftops and shoot out the street lights when anybody come through and light the car up. Like I'm glad that y'all seeing like I wasn't just making these stories up. And like even when you go, they had like you said, it's like they have this thing where they try to. It's a white savior complex that everybody seems to have. Like we have to have some kind of friends. It has to be a good one. Like people just can't believe that like yo there are systems and there is not, you know what I'm saying? My feelings about anybody doesn't really matter. I don't care about none of them individually, you know what I'm saying? Like would I be friends with any of them? No, you know what I'm saying? But when you be like yo it's hatred or whatever, yeah, I do hate the like when you actually look up the history and see what really happened, then you hate that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't care if they exist, you know what I'm saying? But the fact is they can't like their whole industry is made off of your bloodshed. But you need to see that we wasn't just some cowards, who had to reason with them. Like, no, we took it into our own hand. They wasn't just running up in our neighborhoods, just killing us and doing
Yes,
whatever, and people was just sitting there, oh Lord, have mercy, what are we gonna do? No, they was at church, like praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. You know what I'm saying? As my brother MD2 would say, they was having shootouts at the churches when the Klan rolled up. They
exactly.
wasn't talking about I forgive you. They was like, no, get up out of here. And they couldn't just burn down our because we like to be like, well, if we just do something, they gonna come destroy it anyway. But no, they probably they can't. But the thing that destroyed it was our wanting to believe that there is a good white person out there. That's what destroyed black communities. Our hope for good white people, to be
But
honest
we
with
didn't think like that until we start allowing them to educate us. Now
you.
that they educate us, we think crazy thoughts, crazy stuff. We we wouldn't dare think of this. Just like this conversation is too much for some. This movie is too much for some. But this is their history. This is how they treated us, and we still not ready to. I want you guys to remember, what is it going to take for us to jog some memory, for us to be like, hold on, we have a God-given right to protect our families, to protect our children, to protect our homes. We have a God-given right. And you go see, keep watching. It's not that long, you guys. I think it's like maybe what, 20 more minutes, 15 more minutes. It's not that long. But I want you guys to see and never forget, because you
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
be reminded. And if we have to do this every week for you guys to wake up, then guess what? we're gonna do what we need to do to wake y'all asses up.
And
This
you
is
know what,
ridiculous.
consider I'm gonna go ahead. Like I got the book, I'm gonna go ahead and finish it and then release it and keep going with the Black History stuff because there's nobody want to talk about the Negroes with guns, like
Yeah, yeah.
because what.
We need to
Mhm,
never forget because
right.
we used to kick some butt and took some names. Okay, I don't know what we
Right.
doing now. We running.
Um, we didn't even care what their name was. We just kicked some. Go ahead.
Exactly. We didn't even ask what their name was because we didn't care. Go
But
ahead,
yeah,
I read. Oh.
Fast forward to 1946, and another showdown was brewing in the town of Columbia, Tennessee. World War II had ended just months before. Black soldiers had returned home after fighting fascism overseas, determined to claim the dignity and rights they had earned in uniform. But the Jim Crow South was unwilling to change. The Ku Klux Klan was still active, and violence against black veterans was alarmingly common. Not long before the events in Columbia, a black veteran named Isaac Woodard had been beaten and blinded by police in South Carolina for asserting his rights in public. Tension hung thick in the post-war air. Black men were less inclined to accept the same old insults, and white supremacists were intent on reminding them of the racial hierarchy. In Columbia, the spark came on February 25, 1946, from what began as a simple errand at a department store. A 19-year-old black Navy veteran named James Stevenson accompanied his mother, Gladys, to a shop to retrieve a radio that had been serviced. Instead, they were told the radio had been sold to another customer. When Mrs. Stevenson pressed for its return, William Fleming Jr., a white store employee, confronted her with hostility. James stepped in to protect his mother, and a fight broke out. In the struggle, he hurled the clerk through a plate glass window. The sight of a black man striking a white man in Tennessee in 1946 ignited a surge of outrage that spread quickly through town. Police arrested James and his mother, charging them with disturbing the peace. Both pled guilty and paid a fine. Yet the matter escalated when the clerk's father swore out new warrants accusing James of assault with intent to kill. As the story spread, distorted with each retelling, local white anger swelled. By evening, a crowd gathered at.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I gotta tell you real quick because I be saying this story before, right? And I gotta give you the whole thing, right? So
Yeah.
they wasn't like she was saying they did something with a radio, and the white dude who was in the shop put his hands on her, and she didn't know her son was there, who was a veteran who had just came home, and he beat the hell out this white dude. You know what I'm saying? Threw him through the glass and everything, right? And so he was in the middle of the street, like beating him down. And so, like, white people saw it and tried to run over there and grab him. But then black people who was in the street, they saw that and they went over there. They started fighting to back up the brother. You know what I'm saying? Like they ain't just stand there and like watch or whatever. And then it turned into a huge brawl or whatever. But yeah, I just had to add that. And
That's
then
when black people stood together. That's
mhm,
when he put his hands on his mama. That was it. Period. You don't let nobody put their hands on your mama or your
nope,
family members. Period. You handle your
no,
business. We just gone crazy now. They do all kind of stuff now to us. They shoot your kid in the head and you just, I forgive them. What the hell are you talking about? I forgive what? Did you ask? They
mhm,
didn't even ask you for your forgiveness. And you giving them your forgiveness. They just shot your parents in the church, 9 of them. And all their family members say what? Instead of kicking Dylan Roof's behind, I forgive you. Forgive you for what? He didn't ask you for no forgiveness. He went and had dinner on your parents, on their grave. And you forgiving
mhm.
somebody. Please. I need you guys to remember. And this video is going to show you where we should be and what we should be doing. I'll rest. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna show this. I'm gonna go back to the movie. But if you want to look it up, I'm gonna show what you can look up if you want to see that story. And then we're gonna go back to the movie. So you can just look up the Columbia riot.
the Maury County Courthouse, muttering about punishing the Stevensons and others in their community. The conditions for a lynching or an attack on the Black District were set. Columbia's Black residents, especially its veterans, prepared themselves. They knew what usually followed when white crowds gathered in anger. In the segregated district known as Mink Slide, the center of Black business life, men began to mobilize. Many were veterans who had served in Europe and the Pacific, trained in firearms and tactics. They armed themselves and organized defenses. They were determined not to let Columbia become another site of unchecked violence. As night fell, the courthouse square filled with white men, some Klansmen and others locals carried along by the fury. In Mink Slide, Black defenders positioned themselves on rooftops and inside shop fronts. To deny attackers an advantage, they shot out the street lights. They knew their neighborhood, and the white mob did not. The men steadied their weapons and prepared for the inevitable clash. After midnight, Columbia's police chief sent 4 white patrolmen into Mink Slide. Their task was to investigate reports of armed men and to test the defenses. As they neared the edge of the district, gunfire erupted. Shots flashed from darkened windows and alleys. The 4 officers were hit and wounded, scrambling back to safety while their patrol cars were left riddled with bullets. For the first time in living memory in the South, Black citizens had organized armed resistance that bested white officers in a direct confrontation. The courthouse crowd erupted in anger and alarm. What had begun as a march toward another act of racial terror now looked more like the opening of a battle. The next day, Tennessee's governor dispatched highway patrolmen and National Guard to Columbia. They surrounded Mink Slide and stormed through homes and shops, seizing weapons and arresting over 100 Black residents. 2 veterans, James Johnson and William Gordon, died in custody under suspicious circumstances. Officials claimed they tried to seize weapons and escape, but many in Columbia doubted the story. The sweep was indiscriminate, punishing the entire community for daring to defend itself. Even amid the crackdown, one fact stood out. Columbia's Black community had met the threat and had kept their neighborhood from being overrun by a white mob. What followed was a legal battle that drew national.
Yeah, so you got to understand, right? You ran them up out of your communities. I'm not just making that up. They couldn't just come in there and hurt people. When people be like, oh, we go back to that, then they just gonna do this and do this. Well, then be prepared for when they do it then. Like, just like back then, it's like after every single war, he skipped over. I don't know if he gonna go back or not, but he skipped over in the early 1900s after World War I with the new Negro movement. They try to tie it in with the Harlem Renaissance, but that was just some Black people making poetry. But the new Negroes came home from war and was like, yo, I'm not gonna sit here and be whatever in my community after I came from war. And a lot of them had shotguns, went down to these jailhouses. That's why they call it Red Summer, because Black people fought back. You notice it's a massacre. Like, you got to look at how they word it. It's a race riot when you fight back, but it's a massacre and all that stuff when you don't. But anyway,
And this is what you cannot forget, family. This is so important. We need to get back to the basics. We need to get back to business. They'll start it, and then we turn around and, they throw the rock, then we throw it back, then they want to come after us. Okay, guess what? We're not going to stop. We're going to pick up another one and throw that one too. We're not going to stop, because guess what? Back in the day, when they came after you and they saw you had some weapons, they turned around and walked the hell away. They ran the hell away. They knew, oh, hold on now. And it was less hangings. When they knew that you had some weapons to help yourself to fend them off, you didn't see as many hangings in that city.
yeah, sometimes they limped away if they got away at all.
That's right. That's right. Whatever it's going to take. I guarantee you wouldn't see no more bodies in trees if you start doing the same thing to them.
And it got to a point where Black people was like, look, if you got to go out, take at least 1 or 2 of them out with you.
That's right. You don't go by yourself. Guarantee you not. Especially if you're going. Take some with you. Don't go by yourself. And
Yeah.
let them know if I go, all y'all going. And I rest with that.
All right, it looks like this next part is about Thurgood Marshall. I got my issues with Thurgood Marshall. We'll see where this one goes.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
He's Clarence Thomas replacement, or
Absolutely,
the
absolutely. That
original
yeah,
Clarence
yeah,
Thomas.
yeah.
So we'll see where this goes.
Sent a team to ensure the defendants had proper representation. The trial of 25 black men charged with attempted murder was moved to another county. Evidence was presented, witnesses were called, and arguments filled the courtroom. On October 4th, 1946, the verdicts came down. An all-white jury acquitted most of the defendants, convicting only 2, and those convictions were later overturned. The result shocked many in the state. Some speculated that the outside defense team had raised too many questions, others that the jury was unwilling to endorse the reckless actions of Colombia's leaders. Whatever the reason, the outcome showed that armed resistance could alter not only events on the ground, but also the course of justice in the courtroom. The Battle of Colombia. The Klan had intended to intimidate, but instead it was the Klan and its allies who discovered that a generation of black Americans, hardened by war and weary of injustice, would stand their ground. Colombia's stand in 1946 sent ripples across the South and marked the beginning of an era when the old order could no longer count on absolute submission. Our third story takes place in Monroe, North Carolina, a small town that became an unlikely battleground for black self-defense in the 1950s. At the center of the story is Robert F. Williams, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and a daring leader who made the Ku Klux Klan think twice about ever coming to Monroe again. In the mid-1950s, Monroe's black residents were under siege. Klan members drove through black neighborhoods at night in caravans of cars, firing guns into homes, tossing burning crosses onto lawns, and shouting threats. Local police often stood aside or even escorted these night riders, leaving the black community with no protection. Williams, as the president of the Monroe NAACP chapter, decided that his community would no longer suffer in silence. If the law would not defend black citizens, then black citizens would defend themselves. Robert Williams was not inclined to...
Did you hear that? Play that back. I need them to understand that. I need them to hear. They had a legal right. They had a God-given right to defend themselves. And you sitting up here watching your babies being hung, watching them being shot in the middle of the street, and you just stand there? That's why the Black Panthers was established, to make sure they're not doing stuff like this. And we're going to go into Deacons of Defense, and that's why they were established too. So we have to get back to establishing some of these groups to, these Army vets and use them. Then we need to do what we need to do. But go ahead, I rest.
Robert F. Williams, and y'all can look up Negroes with Guns, what he was telling these black women that, maybe we can go through the court and get justice after this white person threw this black woman down the stairs and like hurt her, but they didn't get justice. And he was like, yo, he realized, and this is 1950 something. That's why I'm like, how we still don't know, like 75 years later. He was like, damn, the only thing that they understand is violent. Like psychopaths only understand one language, And then he starts talking about Negroes with guns, And when you start talking like that, now is a problem. So shouts out to Robert F. Williams. Let's go back to, and I'll show y'all can look them up, and then we'll go back to it.
Yes.
Or even escorted these night riders, leaving the black community with no protection. Williams, as the president of the Monroe NAACP chapter, decided that his community would no longer suffer in silence. If the law...
Oh, I'm sorry, because that was a point I wanted to say too. Notice how he was a member of the NAACP who tried to tell him. That's why I was saying he was going through that court stuff. And when he realized that was some BS, that's when he started going like to this. And you know what the NAACP did? And kicked his handpots out of it, so he had to make his own group,
Oh wow, see. So you should have known right then that they wasn't about nothing. Didn't the
Right.
Jews create them? They,
It
some
did.
white folk created them. But black, that's not a black, that's never been a black group. They always had black faces, but never stood for anything worthwhile.
No.
Never get any results as far as police brutality. Where's the NAACP? And they said, I talked to one lady, this was maybe a couple years ago, and she said, "Oh, we working on it." I'm like, "Well, how long does it take? How long you been working on it? They've been killing us for 70 years. How since slavery? What we gonna do? How long? What? It makes no sense. You talking you still working on it? What you doing? It just didn't make sense. And then they want you to give all this money. I'm giving you nothing. I don't see you doing nothing to earn my money.
Oh yeah, you definitely shouldn't give them money. But yeah, I mean, Ida B. Wells called them out, and they was made in like 1900 something, and she called them out like within 2 years. Like, why the hell they all got a Jewish dude as the head?
Exactly. What in the
And
world?
yeah,
Like, what? You got a jury? What? You got a black, all these black groups that got founders as white folk. What? What are we doing?
yeah.
No.
So yeah, she called it. She was
That's
the
why it's
first one to
still
call them out.
in business because it's not made for black people.
Mm.
You got black faces, but no black folk working, doing nothing.
All right. And look, this is the real history. Y'all can go to the museum and get the good white people version
Yeah.
if you want to.
Yeah. That's all you're gonna get.
So there you go.
These night riders, leaving the black community with no protection. Williams, as the president of the Monroe NAACP chapter, decided that his community would no longer suffer in silence. If the law would not defend black citizens, then black citizens would defend themselves. Robert Williams was not inclined to submissiveness. He had seen too much hatred and hypocrisy. As a child, he had witnessed a white police officer beat a black woman senseless, an image seared into his mind. After serving his country in uniform, Williams returned to find that service had earned him no respect from Jim Crow. He turned instead to the lessons of his own heritage. Since Reconstruction, black Southerners had sometimes survived by keeping firearms close at hand. In 1956, Williams took a bold step.
We've helped thousands of veterans get jobs in tech.
Obtained a charter from the National Rifle Association to establish the Black Armed Guard in Monroe. On paper, it was a rifle club, but in practice, it was a disciplined group of black men, many of them veterans, who pledged to protect their community from violence. Williams secured firearms, including high-powered rifles, and the men drilled in preparation for the next wave of Klan terror. The first major test of Williams's ideas had come years earlier, in 1947. A black resident of Monroe named Benny Montgomery had been executed by the state for killing his white employer in a fight over wages. After the execution, Klansmen threatened to snatch Montgomery's body from the funeral home and drag it through the streets as a warning to the black community. Williams and others in the Monroe NAACP were determined to stop it. They organized an armed guard at the funeral parlor. When a line of Klan vehicles crept up with their lights out, they were met by the sight of dozens of rifles aimed directly at them. The Klansmen fled before a shot had to be fired. That night taught Williams that collective self-defense.
Hold on. They said something very important. They was waiting. They was ready. They was prepared, right? When the Klans drove up, they saw they that were ready, and they was like, not today. And what they do? They drove off. See what I'm saying? When you are when the rabbit got the gun, they keep going. They back up. I remember one time, remember when NFAC, the guy was in Georgia, and he went after Ahmaud Arbery, those men, and the Klan came up, and what they do when they saw them black folk, they was armed. They kept walking. They didn't say not one word. They didn't want that heat. They wasn't ready for that. And they kept walking. Because they punks for real. You have to understand who you dealing with. These people are cowards. But they got them guns and they think they're going to make you think their bark is bigger than their bite. They like them little chihuahuas. Got a big old mouth. You look and see that little dog, you be like, I ran from that. You get mad because you ran from that little 2-inch hot dog, Chihuahua, with no teeth. Got a big old bite and no teeth. Or old Rottweiler that ain't got no tooth, that's blind, but got a big old bite, a bark, but no bite. That's what we doing, y'all. That's what's going on right now. That's what we doing. What are we going to do about it? Enough is enough. How long are we going to wait and see all these, bodies on trees that they say, oh, it's suicide? What? All of them? I don't think so. I want y'all to remember. Let's not forget. Time to remember. Hello? Are we there? Let's wake up. We dreaming. Wake up from your dream. Go ahead, forecast.
Oh yeah, facts.
Defense was not only possible, but effective. Convinced by the lesson, he began shaping the Black Armed Guard into a reliable force, acquiring better weapons and organizing the men for coordinated action. By the summer of 1957, Monroe's racial tensions were boiling over. The local NAACP was pushing for desegregation of public spaces, including a swimming pool. The Klan responded with open hostility. Crosses burned. Rallies drew
We go the desegregation NAACP.
thousands of white supremacists from across the state. The atmosphere grew more menacing by the week. Emboldened by their numbers and secure in the knowledge that local police would not interfere, the Klan planned an attack. Their chosen target was the home of Dr. Albert Perry, a respected physician and vice president of the Monroe NAACP. One night in October 1957, a motorcade of armed Klansmen sped toward Dr. Perry's house on the edge of the black neighborhood. They expected another show of intimidation. Instead, Williams and the Black Armed Guard were ready. They had learned of the plan and set an ambush. The defenders spread out in the dark, hiding in ditches, behind trees, and inside the house itself. When the convoy approached, headlights off, the defenders switched on flashlights and car beams to expose the attackers. Then came a storm of rifle fire. Windshields shattered, tires blew, cars swerved as bullets tore through the night. The Klansmen panicked. Some jumped from their cars and ran into the woods. Others slammed the gas and fled down the road, weaving wildly to escape. The ambush lasted only moments, but it was decisive. The Klan raid had been crushed, not by the state, but by a community that refused to be terrorized. In the aftermath, Monroe's officials could no longer deny reality. Embarrassed, the city council passed a law banning Klan motorcades from the streets. For years, the Klan had driven openly through town, confident that no one would resist them. After that night, they no longer dared. The raids ceased, and the black community experienced a new sense of safety. Their stand had made clear they were not easy targets. The events in Monroe made Williams a national figure. He openly clashed.
So pretty much,
hear that. What did they do? They retreated. Every time they was met with the same fate, they ran. You think they won't do that today?
Well,
Are they cowards? We know they cowards.
Well, we've seen what happened to the last white boy that said some racist stuff and ended up getting. But anyway, no, the point is, right, while the NAACP was like, oh, let me go jump in the water and pee in the same water with these white kids, these brothers was like, what actually got the laws changed was when there started being white bodies. Like, if you look at throughout history, laws don't change until you see white people getting pulled out of their cars. You think it was like Martin Luther King and all of that stuff, or when you go back and look up the Watts riots in 1965 and white people getting pulled out of their cars driving through the black neighborhoods, that made them be like, oh, well, we need to do something about this, when it's you. I mean, even if you want to be their friend, the only way to do it is to, lead by example, you know what I'm saying? To do what you got to do to make sure that to pass the law. It's still only one way, still only one answer to get the law passed, All right.
Broadcast, I'm gonna have to get on my phone because my battery and I left my charger at work for my
Okay.
computer. Okay.
All right. All
All
right.
right.
So yeah, we're gonna keep going. I don't know. I'm mad that it messed me up with the echo. So can't flow like normal.
With civil rights leaders who which suspended him after he for survival. Many black cited him as a model. Williams himself beyond Monroe. It proved that armed courage, when organized and disciplined, could hold back the tide of terror. The Klan had built its power on fear. In Monroe, that power was broken. The people of the town knew it, and so did every Klansman who looked over his shoulder afterward. For once, it was the Klan that felt the fear it had long inflicted on others. By the mid-1960s, the struggle for civil rights had intensified across the South. Nonviolent marches and protests filled the streets, but so did violent backlash from the KKK and their allies. It was in this climate that a new group emerged to stand between peaceful protesters and the Klan's terror. They called themselves the Deacons for Defense and Justice. In black communities under siege, they were known simply as the Deacons. Comprised largely of black military veterans, the Deacons carried guns openly to protect civil rights workers and local residents. These men took the philosophy of self-defense seriously, becoming a protective shield when neither the federal government nor local police would act. The first Deacons chapter formed in late 1964 in Jonesboro, Louisiana. A group of Black Army veterans, including Ernest Thomas and Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick, had grown weary of seeing Klan night riders beat and intimidate black citizens who were fighting for their rights. They organized the Deacons to guard communities and activists directly. Unlike older underground efforts, the Deacons did not hide their activities or their weapons. They patrolled openly with rifles in hand. Chapters quickly spread to other Klan-plagued areas, including Mississippi, Alabama, and more towns in Louisiana. Wherever they went, these men sent a clear message to the Klan. The days of unchecked white terror were ending. One of the most dramatic fronts was Bogalusa, Louisiana, in 1965. Bogalusa was a stronghold of Klan activity, so bold that the Klan had infiltrated both the local police and the sheriff's department. Black citizens could barely step outside to protest without facing armed white vigilantes. Into this atmosphere stepped the Deacons. Under the leadership of men like Charles Sims, a veteran of the Second World War, and Robert Hicks, the Bogalusa chapter built a disciplined defense force. They escorted civil rights leaders, including Corps Director James Farmer, through town to prevent ambushes. At night, Deacon patrols cruised black neighborhoods with lights out, watching for any sign of intruders. For the first time, the black residents of Bogalusa felt that someone was watching over them who had both the will and the means to respond. The Deacons' confrontation with the Klan soon moved from words to actions. In Jonesboro, after the integration of a public library, the Klan retaliated with cross burnings. The Deacons countered with leaflets delivered discreetly to white households, warning that any man caught burning a cross would be killed. The warnings spread quickly, and the cross burnings stopped. The Klan had met a force that spoke in terms they understood, the promise of equal consequences. A few months later, a major clash.
All right, yeah, that's a good point to stop. You see, they went to leaving it like if you burn another cross, whoever burns a cross or anywhere in this vicinity is gonna be dead. They stopped them cross burnings quickly.
Exactly.
Right. They talk about Martin Luther King, but what they won't tell you is he hired these brothers, and especially in his early years, to protect his marches. And a lot of the nonviolent people hired them to protect the marchers sometimes. Um,
Yes.
they won't tell you about that part. Like what even that brother had guns. And see, like they're gonna tell you about the peace and the loving thing, and like Ross said, will we ever have men like that again? It's a great question. Today is probably not, but I would like to say I hope so in the future. especially if we can control our children's minds again and like educate them ourselves and show them this stuff. Like when they go to the museum, like you need to see the truth about it. Like they saw like, oh yeah, this person was existed, but they ain't gonna tell you the truth. Like they might have a picture of like Ida B. Wells, but they ain't gonna tell you how she like was in the 1800s smacking the train conductor trying to make her get off the train. Like, don't put your hands on me. Like, just like today, ain't no difference. Sued him back then, and when she realized she couldn't sue them, she said, you know what, black people should have a rifle, and a rifle should have a place in every black home in America. And she was damn sure right. And she was saying like about how it was economic, but they don't tell you none of this stuff. If you want to not see the truth about her, they're gonna tell you the sensitive part, like Cassandra said, to protect their feelings. But all right, we're gonna keep going. And then I want to.
Unfolded in Bogalusa on July 8, 1965. A nonviolent march to City Hall was underway. Black high school students and civil rights activists marched for equal rights while hostile whites hurled insults and rocks. The mob grew bolder, surrounding the protesters and shoving them. Among the security that day were deacons, including Henry Austin, a young Air Force veteran. As the mob pressed in, Austin drew his pistol and fired a single warning shot upward. When a white man continued to lunge at the demonstrators, Austin shot him 3 times in the chest. The man survived, as did Austin, but the point was made. Panic swept the mob, which moments earlier had seemed confident. They fled in fear, dragging the injured man away. The demonstrators were saved from what could have turned into a brutal beating or worse. The deacons had again stopped a Klan-led assault in its tracks. The presence of the deacons forced the federal government to act. Washington had been reluctant to intervene in small-town violence unless it spiraled out of control. Bogalusa was close to that point. Fearing open warfare between armed black veterans and entrenched Klansmen, the Justice Department invoked Reconstruction-era laws to order local police to protect civil rights workers. For the first time in generations, the federal government stepped directly into a local fight against the Klan. That intervention came because the deacons had made it clear that if Washington would not act, they would. By late 1965, the effect of the deacons was undeniable. In Bogalusa and Jonesboro, black citizens felt.
What did they do? They told the government, if you don't, we will. And what did the government do? They did. Right? Because they knew back in the day, black folk was burning shit down. They didn't care. They burned shit down. And this is what we have to get back to. Now they so used to us not doing nothing. They just keep doing what they doing. Them niggas ain't gonna do nothing. And we don't. We don't. I'm looking at black folk who was pulling bodies out the road. They was picking them up and running with them. If that had been nowadays, we left you right there in the street and went about our business. We wouldn't have been picking up no bodies. But while asking, are we ever gonna get back like that? Yes, we can. But it's gonna take you educating your own children. It's gonna take you teaching them how to love each other again. Because they've had 70 years with our babies' minds. And look at the result. Look at these schools. Look at these schools. And be ashamed of yourself, black family, what we've allowed them to do to our children. And then we got the nerve to talk about the schools. Well, hell, you gave them to them. You gave him your child. You gave him your children. Mine. What'd you think they was gonna do with them? And now you got a school that's wild kingdom. And you looking and pointing at the babies. Ain't they fault? It's your fault. You gave them to them white folk. Talk about they gonna get a better education. They get abused. They get PTSD.
Yeah.
I rest with that.
No, I mean, yeah, that's true. And then and they casually mentioned, yeah, it was 1960. But if you look it up, by this time, black people was kind of tired of that passive, don't hit back stuff. They was like, yo, that's not working. What is working is hitting back.
Exactly.
And this is what
Hitting
was
back,
going
shooting
on in
back. That's right.
1965.
Damn
Right.
right. That's the only thing they know. A
Yeah.
bully don't stop bullying just because you please leave me alone. a bully stop bullying after you beat their ass.
Mhm.
You approach him, then he be, oh, okay. He might try you, but he gonna get tired because you
Yes.
fighting back. When you fight back, they be like, oh, okay, well, let's do, okay, y'all. They fight back now. I don't understand why we don't know that. Okay, maybe we'll get it eventually.
Um,
All
I
right.
was about to say something bad, but I'm gonna just shut up and keep going.
Felt emboldened to register to vote and integrate public spaces because they knew armed defenders were nearby. The Klan, stripped of its aura of invulnerability, began to wither. FBI reports of the period noted that Klan activity shifted to cowardly acts, such as leafleting or petty vandalism. The open attacks had stopped. The deacons had terrified the terrorists. They worked in parallel with the nonviolent movement, not in opposition to it. They understood that marches and sit-ins needed protection, even if that protection could not be advertised. Many leaders of nonviolence privately welcomed their presence. Even Martin Luther King Jr., though he would not personally carry arms, was guarded in places like Bogalusa by men who had pledged themselves to the deacons. This balance between nonviolent protest and armed defense was rarely acknowledged, but was central to survival in many towns. The legacy of the Deacons for Defense and Justice is one of discipline and resolve. They showed that principled use of arms in defense. Sheriffs hesitate. If the Klan was an empire of fear, C.O. Chin was a one-man rebellion, armed, bold, and unbowed. Chin was not a famous speaker or an outside organizer. He was a local son of Madison County, born and raised there. Standing tall and muscular, he built a modest economic base for himself. He owned a 152-acre farm, ran a nightclub called Club Desire, where artists like B.B. King and James Brown performed, and operated a bootlegging business. In a Jim Crow society designed to keep black men subservient, Chin carved out his independence. He protected that independence and his people with firearms and fearless resolve. By the early 1960s, Canton had become a focal point for civil rights work. Organizers from CORE and SNCC arrived to register black voters and push back against segregation. They were met with arrests, beatings, shootings, and open threats from the White Citizens Council and the Klan. In that hostile climate, they found an unlikely guardian in C.O. Chin. On many nights when mass meetings were held in black churches, he sat outside in his pickup truck, a shotgun across his lap, watching over those inside. Volunteers recalled that he also assigned armed men to escort civil rights workers to and from rural meeting sites. His presence gave activists in Canton the chance to operate with less fear than in other parts of Mississippi. The local white establishment soon realized that Chin was serious. He responded to threats with force. One incident inside the Madison County Courthouse became part of local lore. During a hearing for a jailed civil rights worker, the sheriff began shoving and insulting black attendees. Chin stepped between the sheriff and the protesters. He revealed the pistol holstered at his side. The sheriff, known for his temper and power, backed down. Later, he admitted grudgingly to his deputies that, in the county, there was only one man he considered his equal in toughness, and that man was C.O. Chin. Stories of Chin's actions spread quickly through Canton's black community. He was known to patrol the town at night, watching for Klan riders. One night, white extremists came to his farm with the intention of harming him. Chin confronted them at his fence line with rifle in hand. Shots were exchanged, and the attackers fled into the night, never to return. Each time he was tested, he held his ground. Activists in the area often joked that every white man in Canton knew not to cross him. His very name became a shield for those who organized under constant threat. Because of Chin, Canton achieved victories that might not have been possible otherwise. Voter registration drives advanced with less bloodshed than in surrounding counties. Civil rights workers were able to go door to door to mobilize voters without the same level of interference. In 1964, when Chin organized a boycott of segregationist-owned stores, the usual terror tactics of bomb threats and shootings did not escalate as they often did elsewhere. The knowledge.
So, and shouts out to that brother because yes, sometimes that they only can respect that. Um, and consider, you want to say something about that?
Man, I think it spoke for itself. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And you want to see like some stuff that you won't see in the museum, some other stuff
Come
that's
on.
kind of the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna just pick some random ones for the one. But I always like this particular story here, the story of the brother Madison Washington. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that one too, Raw. Um, but the brother Madison Washington who escaped slavery twice and went back to go get his wife and got caught and led a revolt and freed hundreds of people. Just to show you this is not new.
Fierce spirit. He was considered a fugitive for escaping slavery and heading north to Canada.
This one's got music.
As stated many times in previous videos, of you by supporting this channel on Patreon. All my videos concerning this time period, I try to avoid some of the grueling details. Little attention has been given to this event by historians. Diplomatic historians usually deal with the matter in one paragraph, and a recently published article puts most of the emphasis on diplomacy. The occurrence receives scant attention in the major work on judicial cases. The scant dissemination of this history is to be expected, as we've seen a wife, daughter, and niece, and 4 other passengers. The soon-to-be leader of the revolt was an enslaved man named Madison Washington. According to an account by another enslaved individual, Madison Washington was quite the impressive man. William Wells Brown, an ex-slave writing in 1866, declared that he was one of the handsomest of his race. His dignified, calm, and unaffected features announced at a glance that he was endowed with genius and created to guide his fellow men. According to Brown, Madison Washington was born into slavery in Virginia, married in his 20th year, escaped to Canada, but later went back to get his wife. In doing so, he was captured, taken to Richmond, and sold to the slave trader who was bound for New Orleans on the Creole. Madison Washington was said to be the head cook on the Creole. Presumably, his access would have granted him increased communication with other enslaved men on the ship to prepare the revolt. Madison Washington had the lead role in planning a revolt. It is highly likely that he and the several other slave leaders had heard through the slave grapevine of earlier slave ships getting wrecked on some of the Caribbean islands, and the slaves on board being liberated by the British. The revolt began with a trap of some sort of Zephaniah Gifford, the first mate on the Creole. Once Washington got the upper hand, he immediately called the revolt on, shouting for the men to join him, declaring that if they did not, he would have them thrown overboard. In total, 19 African men joined the fight. Struggle after struggle ensued. Captain Enzor was severely injured and retreated to a different part of the vessel. A man named William Merritt had valuable experience Madison Washington needed, and so his life was spared, and he promised to navigate the ship to the Bahamas, where they would likely be freed under British law. By 1 a.m., the slaves were practically speaking in control of the ship, with Madison Washington without a doubt the leader. Nearly every officer, crewman, and passenger who made depositions attested to his dominating presence and leadership. Although the 19 mutineers took over the cabin, they harmed no one after obtaining control. Madison Washington took full control and organized the men in a way that ensured no former officer or crew could retake the Creole. As for the Africans who did not participate in the revolt, they were treated much the same as the crew. Arthur Downey makes an interesting point regarding the emotions and tensions that must have permeated the Creole. He imagines that the Africans who did not participate in the revolt must have been hopeful that the British would give them freedom once they reached Bahamian shores, but also fearful that there would be some retaliation if the mutineers failed. Also, the 19 Africans who revolted may have had a mixture of fear and hope as well, as their successful revolt could lead them to freedom under British law, or could lead to a return to the US meeting a gruesome fate. The crew members also waiting in angst for their fate. As the Creole reached the Bahamas, the 19 Africans under Madison Washington continued to keep a tight hold over the vessel. The Honorable William J. years later reportedly said, "The sagacity, bravery, and humanity of this man do honor to his name, and, but for his complexion, would excite universal admiration." As soon as the Creole landed in the Bahamas, a battle between U.S. authority and British authority took place. Southerners protested and sought to get back what they deemed to be U.S. property. The Africans who did not participate were immediately freed in the Bahamas, but the 19 men were arrested as British authorities were attempting to address the situation. It became a long legal battle, but the British opted to free the remaining enslaved men in the Bahamas.
Alright, I'll stop it right there, and yo, with this brother, he sewed weapons into his clothes and stuff when he went back. That's how he was able to free himself. But consider there's one part, he was like the black people that didn't help. He was like they kind of treated them the same way that they treated the white people. And then some of the black people chose to go back on the ship to go back to America because they were so afraid that something was gonna
Ain't that
happen. They
crazy?
chose to go back.
Ain't that crazy? They should have thrown their ass overboard. Them the ones that need to go overboard. Seriously, that's crazy. You gonna
Yeah,
get free and then go back. Ain't that what we did though? Ain't that what black folk did? We got free. Our ancestors freed us, and we turned around and went back up under them. Ain't that the craziest thing?
yeah,
Our ancestors had a land, homes, schools, hospitals, everything, our own, and we turned around and gave it up to get back up under there to take their ice. That that's just it's just some crazy stuff to me. That makes no
yeah,
sense to me. But if we had taken care of our own, it would have been well over theirs. It would have looked a whole lot better than theirs. But we
yeah,
chose to give it up and go back, you know, to being slaves.
yeah.
That's the saddest thing ever.
And so all right, and this is another one that you won't see this brother put up there either. Now this happened. If you want to know, like I'll be saying Ida B. Wells, but she wrote a book about this one too, about the 1900 race riot. It's the Robert Charles riot that happened in New Orleans or whatever. So and people don't really talk about this one, so I definitely gotta show this brother. I'm not gonna play the long one. Y'all can look up the long one. I'll just play the short one real quick.
In July 1900, New Orleans exploded into one of the bloodiest racial clashes in American history, all because one black man refused to bow. Robert Charles, a black laborer and activist, was sitting on a porch when white police officers harassed him. When they tried to arrest him, he resisted, pulled a gun, and shot an officer before escaping. For the next 4 days, the city burned. White mobs flooded the streets, murdering at least 24 innocent black residents and wounding.
No, because that's not true. All right, so what happened? This brother was sitting on the porch or whatever. The police came up harassing him, and the police pulled the gun, but the brother was armed, and he ended up shooting and killing the police. And so they tried to come hunt for him and find him, but every time they thought they had him cornered in, he ended up getting into a shootout and shooting a bunch of them and kept escaping or whatever. And so by the end, I think he shot like 27 people. He killed like 18 or something like that, including like 14 cops or something. And that all of that stuff happened. So y'all definitely need to look up the story of Robert Charles or whatever. So but they won't show you that one in the museum. And this is another one that I didn't see that I'm kind of surprised, but they claim this was the only time that black people killed more white people in doing a riot, but that's not true. Like they just don't talk about it.
That's around them. Significant military awards, 17 reflect only their names and dates of death, with no.
Houston received two.
I guess that's what they do.
The Houston riot erupted on August 23, 1917, sparked by brutal police treatment of black Americans. It started when police dragged a black woman from her home and arrested her. A soldier intervened and was beaten and arrested too. Then, CPL Charles Baltimore, an MP, tried to investigate, but he was beaten and chased away with gunfire. Rumors of Baltimore's death and an approaching white mob fueled the chaos. The soldiers armed themselves and marched towards the city. The ensuing riot left 16 people, including 5 policemen and 4 soldiers dead. Following 3 courts-martial, 110 soldiers were found guilty, 19 were executed, and 63 received life sentences. None of the civilian mob was tried. In a bittersweet twist, the Army overturned these convictions in 2023. Remember these soldiers.
Oh, never mind. They overturned it last year. But anyway, no. So that's the thing. Like this soldier seen the police harassing this black woman and was like, "No, that's not gonna happen. You're not gonna harass this black woman in front." Because people think that during the early 1900s, black people just walked around. Oh, excuse me, sir. No, they was like, "You're not gonna come in our communities and do this kind of stuff." And so when they did it, the police jumped them and all that stuff. And so what's crazy is the officer who was like the most kiss up, the one who kissed up to them the most. He was the one that led the riot because he realized, like, damn, all this kissing up, and you still look at me like just another Negro. And yes, all of you who still kiss up to him, you just no different than me. You might as well say what I'm saying. You in the same boat. But these soldiers went around the town doing what they had to do. So then, like he said, this is still like the largest trial, most people on trial at one time. And the thing about the soldiers, nobody snitched on nobody. So like some of the people that got executed probably ain't even have nothing to do with it. But the ones who didn't have nothing to do with it didn't snitch. Nobody said a word. Nobody said I'm involved. I'm not involved. And so some people that was involved got away. Some people who didn't have nothing to do with it probably end up going to jail. But nobody said a word. But anyway.
And that's how it should have been.
Mm-hmm.
You mind your business. Why are you talking? If okay. They don't talk. They stick together. We have to get back to that. But now you got black folk pointing fingers. Hey, right there, there you go, right there. What? Then we need to take care of you for running your damn mouth. Shut up. Close your eyes if you got to tell. You know how some people just got to say something. Close your eyes, so then you won't know what to say.
Yeah.
We got to get back to this, family. I'm telling you, it's getting ready to be some dark time. And the more you don't say nothing, the harder they gonna get.
Mm-hmm.
You should not be sitting up here not without having some kind of protection. As much as we talk about this, and y'all still sitting up there with nothing. Some of y'all still don't have passports. Shame on you, because you sure gonna need them. You sure gonna need them.
Yeah.
And are you gonna be ready? This is the time we should be preparing right now. Farmers, supporting our black farmers. Just heard that
Trump gave the white farmers $52 billion. Wasn't it $52 billion, the $1 billion to bail them out? On I tried to do it on the low, and somebody told it. Now that's ridiculous. But you didn't get the black farmers done. So sick of these crackers. I don't know what to do. They can't disappear fast enough for me.
No, yeah, definitely. And yeah, like Ross said, you can look up the 1811 New Orleans, you know,
Yeah,
and his
man,
brother,
it's so many, right? It's so many of
Charles.
them things. So
Hmm.
many.
And this
Black
another
folk didn't
brother.
sit down. And black folk wasn't quiet. They didn't sit down and just let them do nothing. They fought back. They wasn't scared. These crackers got us scared to breathe. Well, if we build it, they ain't gonna do nothing but come and tear it down. That's why you're supposed to have your armed guards around it. You don't sit up there and talk about we ain't gonna do nothing because they gonna do this. Well, okay. What you gonna do? That's what they did before. Then you bring it on. We ready. We got our army vets out there armed and ready. Come across that line, we got no trespassing signs up. Come on over here if you want to. We got something for you.
Yeah.
I know we raw. We too raw for black folk nowadays. We too raw. We make them nervous. We make black folk nervous. Oh my God, there go Cassie and there go forecast. Oh my God. Yeah, oh my God. Oh my God, you ain't ready for this. But you better get ready. Because they getting ready for you, whether you like it or not. And what you
Yeah,
gonna do? You look like me, you gonna be in trouble.
yeah,
Because they not
yeah.
gonna pass you by because you say, okay, yes, sir, master. They gonna hit you in the head for being stupid enough to say yes, sir, master. All right.
No, yeah, facts. And yeah, and this is another brother. I don't think people heard of.
Podcast of the New York Vigilance Committee. As we discussed in
This is Logan Lanier with Specs Weekly. Dr. Ozzie and Sweet moved here in September 1925. The ensuing weeks and months.
Oh no, no, my bad. That was went back to the other one. I went back to what we was talking about. Oh no, it ain't. No, it ain't. I'm gonna play it. There it go. My bad. I got it mixed up.
After he moved here, changed the rights of the sanctity of the American home and civil rights forever. Ozzie and Sweet was an African-American physician in Detroit, Michigan. He is known for being charged with murder in 1925 after he and his friends used armed self-defense against a hostile white mob protesting after Sweet moved into their neighborhood. Born in Florida to a farming family, Sweet went to Wilberforce College for preparatory work and his undergraduate degree. He earned his medical degree from Howard University, also a historically black university. In July 1919, Sweet was attending Howard University when he witnessed the Washington, D.C. race riot. The capital was among 20 cities that had outbreaks of racial violence in the so-called Red Summer of 1919. These resulted from post-war social tensions and competition for jobs and housing as World War I veterans returned home. For safety, Sweet and his classmates stayed in their fraternity house 4 blocks from one area fighting on 8th Street Northeast. He and his fraternity brothers were afraid to go out. Earlier, while walking down the street, he had seen a white gang stop a passing streetcar, pull a black passenger to the sidewalk, and beat him. This sight stayed with him all of his life. After completing his medical degree, Sweet moved to Detroit, Michigan in the late summer of 19 Garland Street. She came from a prominent middle-class hood. Most African Americans in Detroit there, standing among the women and children, lounging on the porches, lurking in the alleys were the men who would incite the crowd to violence. As the crowd grew restless, they threw stones at the house, eventually breaking an upstairs window. Several of Sweet's friends were armed with guns and had taken positions upstairs. Someone fired from the house, hitting 2 white men. Eric Holberg was wounded in the leg. Leon Breener, who had been simply watching the events from a porch on Garland Street, was killed. The 11 African Americans in the house were later taken to police headquarters, where they were questioned for 5 hours. All were arrested for murder and continued interrogations. Although Glass Sweet was released in early October on bail, the men were held at the Wayne County Jail until the trial was over.
You there?
Oh, my bad. I was on mute. I was like, but yeah, basically, that brother was pretty much moved into a white neighborhood. The white people stormed his house, but he got a group of black people in there, and when they stormed his house, they shot back in self-defense, and end up shooting 2 white people. But
But of course, we go to jail.
yeah, and then he
But
went
we
to
fight
jail.
back. Why even do that? Why even move into their neighborhood? You see what I'm saying? We bring stuff on ourselves. Why even move into their neighborhood for one? Why even go to their white restaurants? Ain't no telling what's in your food. We just do stuff. We bring stuff on ourselves. Let them have that shit. Let them have it. Who want it? They can't cook. You don't know what they put in your food. But you'll fight them to go sit at their restaurant. That made no sense to me. We'll fight them to go to their schools. No, stay your behind at your own school. Stay in your own black neighborhood. You didn't have this problem when you was living amongst your own. Only when you want to reach out and touch them. Then here you got all this extra stuff that didn't even need to be bothered. You didn't even need to be bothered with them. Could have stayed on your side of the tracks and had a good old funky good time. But here you go, got to come over there and taste their ice. It's the same ice. Come out the same machine. And you going to die over their ice. And it's the same ice you just had across the road. I rest. Go ahead.
No, that's fact. That's fact. And before we wrap, I want to show you something real quick. I'll play this for you.
People here and a cell for colored people here.
No, it wasn't.
The last time Lynn Council was at this art center in Apex, North Carolina, the inside looked very different. For decades, this was Town Hall.
This is the first floor, and you would have come all the way back here, and the jail cells were back here.
Even 67 years later, Lynn remembers well the time he spent here and the man who arrested him. Back then, Apex Police Chief Sam Bagwell acted with near impunity to carry out racist attacks. His brutality was well documented by news outlets of the time, but he escaped most punishment because he was, as the Carolina Times put it, a valuable asset to the average Southern town. His job, quote, to keep Negroes in their place.
He was a mean man now. He ain't mean ways about him.
One November Tuesday in 1952, Bagwell arrested Lynn Council, claiming he was a suspect in an unsolved convenience store robbery. Council would not admit to a crime he says he did not commit. Lynn recalls Bagwell became more and more frustrated by his denial.
He hit me, slapped me on the stool.
Apex town historian Toby Hollenman says then Council was taken to Wake County for more interrogation. The next day, a trial.
At which time it appears he pled not guilty because he wasn't guilty.
The next morning, 2 of Bagwell's sheriff deputies took Lynn and the other 7 suspects into their police cars. They drove 10 miles into the country to what's now a 2-lane highway near a suburban neighborhood. Council says he was led underneath this tree, where a noose was looped around his neck.
And then they got on the other end of the rope and pulled it, so they pulled his feet off the ground.
I thought myself, I said, they're going to keep me out in the woods, do me and leave me down here.
After a minute hanging off the ground,
And he dropped me down. Yeah. Tell her where that money at.
Lynn had no answer. He was taken back to prison and released the next day.
All right, I want to hear what you got to say.
Earlier this year, Lynn told his story for the first time. When Wake County Sheriff Gerald Baker heard it, he felt called to act.
It just kind of rested on me and my heart to.
So you see that what he did was called a mock lynching, and this was something, and I'm surprised they ain't show this either. This is something that they did commonly, where they would actually do a mock lynching, where they literally torture you to
Yep.
get you to confess to a crime
Yep.
that you did not commit, and the more that
Yep.
you didn't admit to it, the more they would torture you, and then after you admit to it, they just go ahead and do a real lynching. And
Exactly. And then kill you for it when you should have
mhm,
just said no in the first place.
right.
Stuck to your guns.
hmm
So
And
a
they
lot
did
of
this,
people have gotten away with a lot of murders
yeah,
among black folk.
they did this to children. Like they would do
Yep.
like mock lynchings to
Hmm.
children, and like people be scared, and then they'd be like, "Oh yes, I did it," and then they
Yep.
would execute you.
Yep.
And
That's because you admitted to it.
yeah, and then you notice he said, "Oh well, they didn't do anything because he's essential to like every white town like that." You know what I'm saying? Or
Hmm.
whatever whatever way they put it. But this is what black people, and like I said, I could show you more. I had a thing about Black Wall Street, because they only talk about the bad part, but they don't tell you about how these black men actually stood up. But it's
Yeah.
one thing that I want to show you. The last video that I'll show you is just a little part of this video. Y'all can watch the whole documentary, right? It's called like James Cameron is a man who survived a lynching. And I'm gonna show you a little bit, but then I'm gonna skip to the part I want to play just so y'all can see the,
Oh
you know,
yeah, that's good. I saw that. That was good. That was a miracle, honey. That was a
yeah,
miracle.
exactly. So I'll play this last video and we go off with this one.
Officials.
That terrible night, August 7th, 1930, was captured in a grainy photograph. On the left is Abraham Smith, who was 19 years old. On the right, Thomas Shipp, who was 18. The photograph speaks volumes about the legacy of slavery, but it only tells part of the story of that night. 1930 was the sheriff, Jacob Campbell. He led the investigation that resulted in the arrest within hours of Smith, Shipp, and Cameron.
And on the way over there to the jail, that was the first time in my life I ever prayed for white people that I can consciously remember. You know what I prayed for? I prayed that that man wouldn't die so he could say I hadn't shot him.
Cameron's prayers went unanswered. The morning papers headlined Dieter's death. The black community, fearing the groundswell of vigilante rage, contacted the
I won't even answer when we say, oh, my bad.
governor, who assured them the law would prevail. Meanwhile, the mayor slipped out of town. And like a red flag, someone flew the bloodied shirt of the dead man from a jail window. The Marion jail was already crowded with prisoners when Cameron, Smith, and Shipp were brought in. They were put in a cell with a group of blacks who'd been arrested for riding the rails, hitching rides on trains.
Now these black train riders in the cell block with me, they were southern black boys. And they said, oh hell, they getting ready to lynch these here boys. And they were walking around looking out the windows, and the crowd was beginning to gather. Yeah, the crowd was beginning to gather as soon as we were put in jail. And by morning, they were cluttering up the jail yard. And all that day, they kept coming. And by nightfall, there was 10 to 15,000 whites out there screaming for the blood of us three blacks.
Outside, among the thousands who were surrounding the jail and crowding into the adjoining streets, were people who are alive today.
There was a very tense feeling among everybody. It was just like a smothery day in summer when you just couldn't get your breath hardly. There was a pressure that you felt like something was wrong. And you felt it all over town.
I scooted up in or got in front of them people to see what was going on. The sheriff took and dropped some tear gas on us, and these made these people.
By the way, there was little kids at that detention. A little white girl, a little white boy.
Mad, and they said, if you don't let us in, you'll get it there, we'll hang you right with them. So he opened the jail, and when he did, why, everybody was pushing to get in. The sheriff had told the police not to shoot out there. There were women and children. And 4 big white men got some sledgehammers in their hands, and they started knocking on the cement blocks and throwing around the steel door that was the entrance to the jail. And they come dragging one of the boys down out of the jail. They took him right down the sidewalk. Everybody was kicking, hitting him, and everything else. And there was a Model T Ford coupe that a woman was standing up there and just, they was all going crazy. And she jumped down. She had high heels. I seen this happen. And her high heels just scraped a hole, just like cut with a knife down his back.
After Shipp had been beaten, he was hung. Then the mob flowed back to the jail, eager to carry out their second execution.
And they pulled him out, and they drug him up there by a car. And they took him off of there and put him on, hung him up on the maple tree. Of course, they had maple trees all around the courthouse, but it's a pretty good-sized tree, and they hung him there, and he grabbed up to keep him from choking him.
And he reached up to get hold of the rope to keep it from choking him.
And they got no emotion telling the story.
So they let him down and broke his arms so he couldn't hang on to the rope. They pulled him up again as we went by.
She smiled.
The mob continued to grow as Smith was lynched. Then, with a kind of focused frenzy, the instigators went back for their third victim.
Being young people, we naturally decided we'd go to Marion and see what was going on. The mob was in full control. It was mob violence at its worst.
They came in, they opened the door, and they said, James Cameron, come forward. Well, James Cameron wasn't about to come forward after I'd seen what they'd done to Tommy and Abe. So at that precise moment, the sheriff came up. He was a large man, about 6'4", kind of rotund. And he had 2 guns. One was in his left hand holster, and the other one was hanging down in his hand. And he was sweating like somebody had thrown a bucket of water in his face. It was hot that night, August the 7th, 1930, in Marion, Indiana. And he looked at me, and he looked at this other black boy, and he looked at that mob leader, and he said, these are nothing but boys. He said, besides, Cameron ain't in here, so you done hung 2 of them, so that ought to satisfy you. Then he turned around, and he went back downstairs. And when he went back downstairs, the crowd said, Cameron is in there, and said, we want him. And then they began to chant for me like a football player. We want Cameron, we want Cameron, we want Cameron. And I thought I would die. I felt like I was in a rubber suit, and ice was packed all around me. I just felt cold and chill. Nothing could warm me. The mob turned around, went back upstairs. They said, all right, Cameron's in here, and said, if we don't get him, we're going to lynch every goddamn one of you niggas. And when they said that, half of the blacks in there fell down on their hands and knees and started crawling around like trained animals. And they were hugging the pant legs of the mobsters and kissing their hands and saying, Mr. White folks, please don't lynch us. We ain't nothing but a bunch of poor niggas in here with train riding. That boy ain't in here, honest he ain't. Now, they knew I was in there, Paul, but they were trying to save me. And this goes on until all the human endurance left in the bodies of those black men had been exhausted. Those crawling around on the floor. And one of them raised his hand. He said, there he is, Mr. White folks. It wasn't none of us, that's him. And then the mob closed in on me, and they started beating me.
And you could hear the commotion just below us to the east, which is the site of the Grant County Jail. And of course there was noise and there was hollering and shouting and suddenly here came this crowd with this young man in the center of this crowd. I was up I did have a vantage point where I could see down probably better than
You was
anyone
just about
else.
to say I was right there.
And I did see this young man being dragged up the street, literally dragged with a rope around his neck. And of course they were intent on hanging him as well.
Then a voice came out from heaven and said,
All right, Cassandra. So, what was you about to say?
I forgot.
Um, but
No, when the lady was smiling when she was
oh
talking about the boy with the arms and they broke his arms, she was smirking. I'm like, how can you smile and saying that? These people are not normal. These are demons.
yeah, and you notice all of them telling, oh, we was young kids back then, and going down to
Totally.
just see the store. Like, we going to see. I mean, you don't even go see other animals get slaughtered just to get slaughtered, but
Exactly.
they tell a story with no emotion whatsoever. And dude almost gave it away. He was like, "Oh, I had a well, I had a vantage point. I was back there." But he was about to say, "I was front row pulling the rope too."
Exactly. Exactly.
And these
Exactly.
and these old fools that's still there, but people wonder why I feel the way I feel, say what because like
Yep.
you see the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like
And
they
never
ain't gonna tell
change.
none of these stories
They'll
or
never
talk about none
change.
of these people.
Right.
They just gonna make you think, oh, there's some good white folks. There's a good one out there somewhere. Is there? But anyway, consider you want to say something to like wrap up everything that we was talking about?
I hope what we're talking about is ringing a bell for some. I hope they really are trying to wake up from the madness. We've been lullabied and we sleeping so hard. It's hard to wake up. You've been sleeping for so long. To fight for your freedom. Everybody else fights for theirs except us. We want to help everybody else. And then when it comes to yourself, it's almost like you have no love for yourself. You rather just be a martyr or act like you're a martyr. You dying for something big. No, you fight for what it's worth. You don't just lay down and die. I'd rather be free. Don't we want to be free? Let's fight for our freedom instead of dying for absolutely nothing. So many of our babies are dying on trees for absolutely nothing that we know of. And then they're not even investigating it. They coming to tell us, oh, it's just, he just committed suicide. Because you know who did it and you don't want to investigate it. Period. And you don't want nobody to pay the price. But they're going to pay regardless. They're going to pay regardless before they close their eyes. Somebody in their family going to pay. And then your lineage be going through. And then you wonder why your lineage is going through such a hard time. Because your past ancestors, what they did, how they acted, how they treated people, how many hangings did they do, how many black folk did your uncle, the police officer, murder, or how many false accusations did they accuse that young man of, and he went to jail for 45, 50 years, and then after you was dead, did they come up and say, oh, he was found, he didn't do it after 45 years? Get out of here. That's crazy. Let's wake up, family. Let's wake up. Let's prepare. Let's do what we need to do so that we can be safe. And I'm going to tell you, when y'all feel an unction to get out of America, you better do it or you're going to die. Because he's got to remove us out of the way so he can get to them. It's almost like, you try to whoop a child and you got two child stuck together. You got two kids in the same, no, one got to move. You got to move so I can get that one. And that's what we got to do. We got to move out the way and let him take care of his business. These people got to pay for what they've done to us. And we love them so much, we don't even want to see them pay for what they've done. But I rest with that. I hope we're saying something that's going to get you to wake up.
Nah, facts. And even with that story, it was like, the black people crawled around on the ground like, oh, please, sir, we
Yeah.
just poor black people. And they got a kick out of it, laughed, and then at
Of
the end of the
course.
day, still wanted to lynch you. Like,
Yeah.
so, like, as much as you crawl around and beg and say, "Can I please be a part of it?" They might laugh and be entertained, but as soon
Yeah.
as that stop being funny, you know what the next
You're
entertainment
gonna be
is.
next. Yep. You're gonna be next.
But anyway, for my last
Ask Peter.
words,
Ask
go
Peter
ahead.
Spencer what happened to him when he went hunting with them 9 white guys.
Or
Huh.
that sister that spent the night, or the
Exactly.
the young brothers that spent the night, or the parties
Yeah.
that went to, or the
Huh.
brother that went to Greece, or
Oh
and
God. Shall we name all of them? Jeez. Huh.
anyway.
So many of
Well,
them.
good luck with your good white person out there, and hopefully you
Yeah.
won't be
With your
dead.
best friend. Yeah. Yeah. With your best friend, Heather.
But I will say this for my last words. I'll let this sister have my last words because she said it better than I could ever say it.
Listen to all this and see some of it, then you would have known just what it was. We lost everything.
Lost everything.
You own the land.
Yeah, we own our land, all of them.
And no one ever paid you any money for this land.
No,
Just lost it.
took it.
What do you say to children today? Children like this boy, like your great-grandson, and people who didn't grow up when you grew up, and people who didn't go through what you went through, people who would say, this couldn't have happened in this country. Come on.
I would tell them like this. I said, don't ever stay in a place that white folks can surround it. Don't never stay in a place that white folks can surround it. Because if anything happens some ways else, they'll run you out from your home, just like they did us.
Or she gave better advice than she said. For those of you in another generation who think, "Oh, white folk, the good white folk would never do," never stay in a place where you could be easily surrounded because they are who they are. They are their ancestors too. But the good news is we could possibly be our ancestors if we knew what our ancestors have done.
That's
So,
right.
mm,
That's right. Harriet Tubman, I love her. I
mm,
love me some Harriet Tubman. She
right,
wasn't playing with
yeah. All of this sisters and brothers who
you.
did
Yes.
what they did. Hopefully, we did them justice.
Yes.
But shouts out to Raw in the building. Shouts out to guy who was in the building. I appreciate y'all for listening. Appreciate everybody else. I know it's boring, or it ain't boring. It's actually like educational and well needed, but it's not arguing. Me and Cassidra ain't arguing. I ain't arguing with y'all. I ain't talking about damn president and Democrats and Republicans. So y'all not tuned in because y'all want to be a part of this. But I wasn't joking when I was saying all the stuff that I was saying. I think that's the issue. People didn't take it serious. Like, yeah, I feel that way a little bit, but there ain't no little bit. You know what I'm saying? You either is or you ain't. And I think that I'm gonna keep that to myself. But I appreciate y'all for listening. I appreciate Cassidra because she is. So y'all support Realm in the Bush and what she doing. And yeah, we got to do the live about that stuff soon, Cassidra, because all that stuff is gonna be happening soon with you. So
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. 31st, November 3rd is
yeah,
coming up.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we gotta go in on that. So maybe
Yes.
the next week or two we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can. We
Yeah.
can. Yep.
So as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're gonna keep falling for anything.
Peace, family.